What's up guys, and welcome back to another Trailblazer video. Today we're going to be covering my top 5 tips going into Trailblazer League. Before we jump into it though, I just want to say thank you guys so much for all of the support, likes, comments, subscriptions, everything in the last couple videos. Now with that, let's go ahead and jump straight into today's video. For the first tip, this one I've seen a lot in people's Reddits and things like that, so I felt it was actually worth bringing up. And this tip is pick your areas wisely. And while that seems incredibly self-explanatory, this is based more on the preface of pick areas that have content that you actually enjoy doing. Don't pick areas because streamers or the guy who's maxed in your clan's chat is picking that area. Because ultimately, if you pick areas that you don't enjoy all of the content, you're not going to get the most out of that area, and you're most likely going to quit way before a lot of the other people. Let's use this as an example. I saw some people saying they're waiting to see what Wooks picks, and that's the areas that they will ultimately pick. I can tell you Wooks will most likely probably end up picking Morytania because he'll try to do some strat of completing Inferno and then solo TOB will be like the two things he rushes in the entire league. But now if you want to pick the same areas of him and you decide you want to pick Morytania, but you don't know how to do Nightmare, you don't know how to do TOB, you're not a big fan of the Slayer Tower, then that area is like completely useless for you. I'm not going to go into much more depth with this one because honestly I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory, but I also wanted to make sure I noted this. Really pick areas based on what content you're going to enjoy. They've already said that for a majority of the areas, they're all around 10k points or within a considerable margin. So regardless of whatever areas you choose, you will have equal opportunity for points. So really make sure you pick areas that you enjoy the in-game content that they feature. Now for the next tip, tip 2. I have a graphic up on the screen for this one right here, and that is plan which area you want to pick first. As you can see at the top right here where it says 28 tasks completed, this is completely an assumption, but I feel like it's a pretty safe assumption as well. And that is this is going to be our taskbar for unlocking all 3 of our areas. Right here, this little bar right here will be unlocking our first area, our second area, and then all the way over here we'll finally get our third and final area. And I'm actually a big fan of this tip because judging by this graphic, it looks like we need roughly 50 tasks completed in order to unlock our first area, and then 50 tasks completed again in order to unlock our second area. But then as you can see here, for our third area, it looks like almost double, which I'm going to assume is 100 tasks completed. And what I mean by that is 100 tasks completed in this bar alone, or 200 tasks completed total. Which means it would put a big emphasis on making sure that you know exactly which areas you want to pick in what order, because that third area is going to take you much longer to unlock. So not only is it important to pick which area you're going to unlock first, it's incredibly important to decide which area you plan on unlocking last, and potentially even which area you pick first and second would play a big role as well, depending on which area has better low-level efficiency or what you think will have better low-level task. Like I feel like Kandarin is a very safe first pick in terms of areas. But that is the gist of tip 2. Now moving on to tip number 3, and that is pick your relics wisely. Fortunately, one thing they have mentioned this time around for relics is that they've put a priority on making them as equal as possible because they really want to prevent people from having buyer's remorse. While this is incredible news, you should still be very careful and plan ahead before picking your relics because ultimately you cannot change once you hit submit. I also want to say is that you should also pick your relics not only based on your type of playstyle, but pick them based on your areas. And what I mean by this, say one of your areas is Tirannwn, and your goal for Tirannwn is you're going to kill thousands of Zulrah over the entirety of this league. Well, we already know going into this that Relic 3 is a combat relic, and let's just say each relic respectively gives you 10% bonus damage in each respective skill. So 1 relic would be 10% melee, 2 relic would be 10% mage, 3 relic would be 10% range. That's not what they are, we don't know what they are yet, but let's just say, for example, that's the 3 relics we have for the tier 3 relic. And let's just say your favorite combat style in the game is melee, but your plan is to kill thousands of Zulrah. It wouldn't be a smart decision in terms of what area you chose to pick the bonus 10% in melee, even though that's your favorite combat style. And that's just one example on why it's incredibly important to really go in depth and think about which relic you want to choose prior to choosing it, and think about how it's going to benefit you and the areas and the tasks that you want to complete. Now moving on to tip number 4, and that is don't overlook quests and diaries. And honestly, I will say 100% this is something I have done in some of my strategies. But one important thing that they have noted and confirmed is that all diaries are completable within their respective region. Any of the tasks that weren't completable because of requiring something else, they have auto-completed. Meaning that you can complete each respective diary and you do get the XP lamps, and they are also 5 times XP, which is absolutely massive, making them almost all incredibly worth completing. And the other part of this tip is that you shouldn't overlook quests, because fortunately quests are also 5 times XP, and oftentimes they're going to be the most time efficient in terms of getting levels you need, so they are well worth including in your strategy. Like one quest I noted is the Knight Sword. Before I go into this though, I do want to say that the Knight Sword requires Asgarnia to complete, but upon completing the Knight Sword you will receive over 60,000 smithing XP, which is absolutely insane for a quest that's probably going to take you, I don't know, roughly 30 minutes. You also have to keep in mind this isn't one of the tips, but we have unlimited run energy. That's something some people often forget. So running from one place to another is going to be so much easier because you can constantly run. Don't have to worry about walking. It's going to save so much time in terms of questing and getting around the map. But that 60k experience will get you all the way from level 1 to roughly 44/45 smithing. I don't know about you, but that is pretty mind-blowing to me, especially considering the time investment. Alright, here we are. We have arrived at the 5th and final tip. And the 5th tip is do your research. And personally, I think this could arguably be the most important tip out of all of these on this list, because not properly doing your research could completely destroy a strategy very quickly. And what I mean by this is, yes, plan your strategy, but also double check the fact that your strategy is achievable inside the area that you will be restricted to at that time. Or maybe 2 areas or even 3 areas. Fortunately, they gave us these interfaces that are incredibly useful at giving you some insight on some of the things that are auto-unlocked, some of the quests that are auto-completed, as well as some of the notable areas within that region. These things are incredibly useful. I recommend literally just watching all of them multiple times. But going back to our tip of do your research, I want to give you one example. Let's just say you take the Dwarf Cannon as your example, and you say, okay, I'm unlocking Asgarnia because that's where the Dwarf's located. He's right above Falador. I know that's in Asgarnia. I can 100% get my cannon that way. But then by failing to do in-depth research, you come to find out after you unlock Asgarnia that you actually can't access the cannon because you also have to unlock Kandarin in this case. So yes, you have access to the person that you could buy the cannon from, but you can't even buy it from him yet because you can't complete the quest without Kandarin. And that's just one example. There are absolutely plenty more examples of how not doing your proper research could completely destroy your plan for this league. Off the top of my head, another one is the Ava's device, which will either require you completing Fremennik because you get it auto-completed with DS2, or if you want to complete it any other way, you will have to unlock Asgarnia and Morytania. And only unlocking one of those 2 areas would mean that you wouldn't even be able to complete it at all. So an incredibly important part of this entire process is definitely doing your research, pre-planning what you're going to do, and making sure that you can actually do that within the limits and restraints that you have. But those are my top 5 tips going into Trailblazer League. I hope that at least one or more of these was able to be of benefit to you, or at least help you or give you a little insight on how you should go about this. And if you have already considered all 5 of these tips, congratulations. I'm incredibly happy for you because you're on a great path succeeding in this upcoming league. With that, we're going to end the video here. Thank you guys for all the support on the previous Trailblazer videos. If you did enjoy the video or you found it helpful, consider liking and subscribing. They both massively help out my channel. And with that, I hope I see you tomorrow in the next Trailblazer video.